and I'm back with another episode. And this time, I'm going to talk about something that I just recently learned from going through a Andy Elliott Zoom training. But I mean, it's something that I already knew because I've been a top performer for so long, as you can see with the trophies in the back. But you know what? It's always good to just reiterate and reaffirm the things that you already know, and then you can double down on those things in order for you to be successful in sales, or if you're in any type of leadership role, management, stuff like that. And you know, I realized yesterday actually I gotta keep my skills sharp, because you can't forget, and you gotta go back and put a chip on your shoulder, like to look when you first started in sales. You know, for instance, like when I first started in sales, like I was like psycho obsessed with getting better and learning everything possible, right? And I don't want to ever get into a situation where I think I know more than I actually know. And then I get comfortable and I'm like, oh yeah, like I know how to do this, I knew how to do that, I'm a master in this. It's like, if you're not practicing and keeping up with that kind of stuff, you're not going to be a master of it. So in this video, I'm going to tell you the 6 qualities of a great salesperson, okay? Not a good salesperson, but a great salesperson. So if you want to be a great salesperson who's making a ton of money, you're good at managing your time, you're living in abundance, you're living a beautiful life, you're closing people at a high percentage, you're taking care of your customers, you got a lot of repeat referral business. Sales is a part of life at the end of the day, but these 6 qualities are going to help you become a great salesperson. Or if, let's say you're an average salesperson right now, you're doing okay, guess what? If you want to be great, which of course you do, then pay attention to this video and hit like, subscribe, comment, help me out, guys. So the first quality is you got to have courage, okay? You got to have courage as a salesperson. So what I mean by that is you're going to have to be able to approach people all the time and deal with a lot of rejection. And that kind of thing, it takes a lot of courage, because the more you get rejected, you know, it takes a toll on you and you start to feel a certain type of way. But when you have the courage to just keep pushing forward regardless of what's going on, and then all of a sudden you're going to develop resilience. You're going to develop emotional resilience from going through that courage motions, from doing the things that are going to build your courage muscle, essentially, at the end of the day. So like, for instance, like if you're going to approach every customer that comes into your showroom, like it's going to take courage to do that, because sometimes you're going to have some customers that come in and they have bad energy, and you got to somehow overcome their bad energy with your positive, good energy, because you're so welcoming and you're so positive, right? So that's going to take courage, because they're going to come in and they already have a wall up. They already look at salespeople at a certain way, especially if you're in car sales, right? Like car salespeople know exactly what I'm talking about. Like people come in and like immediately they're starting to throw all these objections and smoke screens at you and all these things. And like some people are super short, to the point, rude, just because they've dealt with so many amateur salespeople. And then when they deal with you, they still have that wall up, right? So it's your job to overcome that barrier, but it's all going to take courage at the end of the day. And you know, courage to have those tough conversations, because if you're in a sales environment, you're going to have a lot of tough conversations with your colleagues, with some of your customers. Like it's just going to happen. It's just the nature of the business, right? It's impossible to make sure that every single person you talk to is going to be happy and is going to like you, right? So it's going to take courage to have those type of conversations with people, and you know, just being able to put yourself out there and be courageous is just going to separates you from being a good average salesperson to being a great salesperson who has a ton of trophies and is living in abundance and just living the best life you could possibly live, right? Just from getting a sales position somewhere. And at the end of the day, you don't even need like a formal education or anything like that to get into sales, right? So if you're somebody who is looking for some type of opportunity for you to grow and to learn and to improve your skills and learn your sales skills and stuff like that, then getting into a sales position somewhere is the best thing you could possibly do. Okay? But that's the number 1. So have courage. Okay, number 2 is repetition. So what I mean by repetition is you got to do the same things consistently over and over and over again. You got to get the reps in, because the more reps you get in, the better you're going to get at something, right? Like even for instance, I just started a new position as a general manager at a house of cars store, which is primarily pre-owned vehicles, and we deal with primarily subprime people, which means people with bad credit. So it's a completely different game. Everything's backwards, right? You got to get the customer approved. You got to find them a car that fits and books with the banks. And it's a completely backward situation. So I got to get the reps in of submitting the approvals, working and finding cars for these customers and stuff like that. In order for me to improve, I got to get the reps in, right? So you got to think about it from your standpoint. If you're in sales, you got to get those reps in too. You got to make those phone calls, make as many phone calls as possible. The more reps you get in, the more comfortable you're going to be in making those calls, for instance, right? Or when customers come into the showroom, you got to be able to approach customers consistently. You approach them with welcoming energy every single time. And then slowly when you're getting those reps in, it just starts to become natural and you start to become more comfortable with it, right? So first you're going to be uncomfortable. All these things are going to be uncomfortable. I don't want to make cold calls. I don't want to approach these people. I don't want to go door to door knocking people's, for instance, I did this when I first started in sales and I went door to door in my neighborhood and I brought my brother-in-law's dog and I just went door to door and I just handed out my cards, right? And I took like maybe an hour and a half to do that on my block and I got 2 deals from it, So like even something like that, it's like thinking outside the box and like, I'm going back to being courageous because obviously it takes courage to do stuff like that, but it's about getting the reps in, right? Everything's about repetition. The more people you talk to, the more reps you're going to get, and the better at communicating you're going to get, and the better your closing rate is going to get. The more time you spend actually trying to close customers and you're writing them up and you're going through the process, the better you're going to get at it, right? So the more people you get in front of me, the more opportunities you're going to have, the more reps you're going to get, the more sharp your skills are going to get. And then the more money you're going to make and the happier you're going to be. So they all go together, okay? Number 3 is follow-up, okay? Follow-up, and it comes down to discipline at the end of the day because there's so many salespeople who don't follow up, and if they don't close a customer right away, then they just give up on it, and they don't follow up consistently, or they try to call that lead once, and then it's been like 6 days, and there hasn't even been one follow-up call. It's like if you have like anybody who was interested in a vehicle, like, and they haven't told you to F off and like they don't want to buy a car and they're done and they're not searching anymore, you should be constantly following up with that person because a lot of times you don't get the sale on the first visit anyways, right? But if you continue to follow up and keep in touch with that person and be persistent, then all of a sudden those follow-ups, maybe it takes you 5 or 6 follow-ups. Like I remember when I was on the sales floor, I remember even 6 months of calling somebody like every week, like trying to contact them, just had them in my putting notes, left a message, texted, called. Finally they answer and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I've been so busy, da 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 da." And it's like, it's not like they're specifically trying to dodge you. It's just sometimes they just get busy. Everybody gets busy in their life and they don't answer the phone. But a lot of times people will actually appreciate the fact that you followed up because, and I know like even for myself, like if somebody follows up with me about something that I inquired about, if I was looking to spend money on something and like I have a problem that somebody has a solution to, and if they follow up with me consistently, then I appreciate it. And I let them know. I'm like, hey, you know what, guys? I actually appreciate the fact that you keep reaching out, and now I'm ready to do business. Now I'm ready to come in and hash out the details on how we can move forward on this, right? Because this is something I was actually interested in. I just got busy. Life gets busy. That's what happens, right? So that's why when you have the discipline to follow up, you're going to knock down so many more deals because your pipeline is going to be so full with people that are going to follow up. And because you're going to give them such good service and your energy is so good and you're so positive and they're so happy to deal with you, it's not going to make a difference if they buy on the first time or if they buy on the third or fourth time, or if you followed up with them like 50 times and they finally answered. They still appreciate the fact that you called them, right? And you contacted them. So don't be scared to follow up with people on a consistent basis because persistence beats resistance. I always say that, right? The more you persist, the more follow-up you do, the better off you're going to be, okay? Okay, number 4 is having intuition. Okay, so now, like, what do I mean by having intuition? So you got to have intuition and be able to read your customer, right? And kind of look and see from their perspective and be like, okay, what is this person thinking right now? What is this person feeling right now, right? Because they might be feeling a certain type of way because they've had so many bad experiences dealing with car salespeople, right? And it's your job to maneuver around that and break down their barrier and make sure that they feel good dealing with you, and that they know that you're genuinely going to take care of them and you have good, pure intentions, right? And that comes from your intuition. You got to be able to read that customer, and then you can gauge on how you want to approach it, right? If you got to keep your tonality a certain way, you got to keep your body language a certain way, like whatever you got to do to disarm the client to make sure that they feel comfortable dealing with you and they're not scared to move forward and do business, because at the end of the day, they came in for a reason, and it's because they have a problem that you have a solution to. But if you're not able to have that intuition and kind of gauge where they're at, then it's a lot of times it becomes difficult, and then those customers end up walking out just because you didn't read the customer the right way. So having the right intuition, and you can feel it, like you can feel it with your heart. The intuition comes from your heart. It's not just from listening to people. You got to feel what they're feeling, right? And have a gauge of kind of where they're at. Are they excited? Is their energy kind of off? Are they not? Like it's your job as a salesperson to get people excited about the process, about the fact that they're actually going to be buying a car and it's going to be good for them because it's solving a problem that they came in for. They didn't come in for no reason, just to waste their time and spend all this time with a salesperson and look at a bunch of cars, test drive a bunch of cars just because they think it's fun. It's not fun. It's fun when you make it fun, of course, but like if you're not actually planning on buying a car and you don't have a problem that your salesperson has a solution to, then that's what I mean by that. It's not fun. It's not fun when that happens, okay? But make sure you have that intuition, because it's going to go a long way. And again, that takes time, right? It takes time, takes practice. You're going to have to deal with a bunch of different customers in order for you to kind of have an idea and like, okay, you know what? This person kind of said this, the way I could see the way his body language was, and like his tonality, like right off the hop. And like sometimes it just takes time to break down people's barrier. And then all of a sudden you have that intuition. You're like, okay, now this person likes me. Okay. And once you break that down and you can master a stranger, then all of a sudden they become your freaking best friends, because they already were your best friends, because at the end of the day, we're all connected. There's that oneness. So if you treat every other person, love thy neighbor, then they're going to feel that, and it's going to be reciprocated. So they're going to feel that energy from you. And then all of a sudden, guess what? They're buying a car. They're super happy. They're smiling. They're giving you a testimony. They're sending you referrals. They come in and buy another car off you in the future. Whatever it is, doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, that intuition goes a long way, okay? Number 5 is going to be your confidence, okay? So confidence is a major key, because you need to have confidence in your product. You need to have confidence in yourself. You need to have confidence and conviction with everything that you say. So the way that you say it, your tonality, how you're delivering what you're saying, are you being persuasive? Are you painting pictures? Are you creating this visual for the customer to see how the vehicle that they're going to get is going to solve this problem that they have? Because like I said before, is they're coming in for a reason, and you gotta paint this picture of how the vehicle that you're selling them and how dealing with you is going to be such a benefit to them long term, right? It's not even just a transactional, guys. This is relational. And that's what's so important about this, is you got to have the confidence that like, okay, you know what? Like, this is my profession. This is what I do. I can guide this person into the right vehicle that's going to be good for them and their family, and make sure that they're happy and like they're not upset. And if they have any problems, then they can contact me, and I'm going to be available, because I'm confident. I'm confident in the product. I'm confident in my business. And you're confident in yourself at the end of the day. And your confidence is going to come from your competence, right? So like if you don't know how to handle any of their objections or anything like that, because you're not practicing, you're not training, then you're not going to have confidence, like, because you're not competent, right? So if you're not competent, you're not going to have confidence. Like even like for me right now, like in the subprime, bad credit, new position that I'm in, like sometimes I'm lacking a little bit of confidence, and then I got to tell myself, okay, no, man, you're going to figure this out. It's all good. Be confident, be your normal self, right? It will just take a little bit of time, but you got to get the reps in, and then I'm going to start figuring it out. So it's the same thing with you guys, right? That confidence has to be built. It has to be built over time. So it's a skill. It's a skill at the end of the day. Like even myself, like I was never this confident when I was like a young man. Like even when I was like 18, 19 years old, I was not this confident, right? I could have got into sales at that age, and I wouldn't have done as well as when I first got into sales when I was 25, right? So it's because I had more confidence. I had more real world experience. I was buying and selling some cars from the car auction and stuff like that, cleaning them, talking to people, booking appointments, getting people to look at cars, selling them in person when they came in, right? I had to persuade them, hey, this is a great car, I had to influence them. So that's where the confidence comes from. It's going to come from experience, and it's going to come from the repetition, from going through the motions and going through all these things that you need to go through, right, as a salesperson. And at the end of the day, you want to get into sales. I promise you. You want to get into sales. It's going to change your life, change my life, and it's going to be the best opportunity to level 10 income opportunity, okay? All right, last one. Number 6 is your follow-through. So having the ability to follow through on your word when you say you're going to do something, right? So this is the difference between a good salesperson and a great salesperson. Because the good salesperson is going to tell a customer, hey, I'm going to do this for you, and then they don't follow through on it, and then the customer gets upset, and it breaks that trust, right? So it breaks that trust because you don't keep your word to your customer, right? So the thing is, if you want to get better at that, you want to get stronger at that, the best thing that you can do is you got to start keeping your word to yourself. You start keeping your word to yourself, then all of a sudden you can start keeping your word to your customers and to your colleagues, and whatever, because you have that ability to follow through on your word, right? So following through is a major, major key if you want to be a great salesperson. That way, if you say you're going to do something, it's going to get done. People can rely on you. Your customers can rely on you. Your management team can rely on you. Your family can rely on you. You can rely on you, right? So that's what I'm talking about. Those things are super important. So quick recap for the 6 qualities of being a great salesperson, because you don't want to be an average good salesperson. You want to be a great salesperson. So in order for you to be a great salesperson, you need to have, number 1, you have to have courage. You have to go through the reps, get the repetition in consistently. And you have to follow up like a maniac, like a psycho, okay? Follow up with every customer, every lead that you've ever had. You need to follow up with them consistently like a maniac, and just never stop and just continue to follow up, okay? Until they tell you to beat it. And usually it takes a lot for a customer to do that. So if you don't have people that are telling you to beat it, you're not trying hard enough, okay? Then you got to have the intuition. You got to understand your customer, and you got to see from their perspective and get into their shoes, okay? And then you got to have the confidence to push through, confidence to persuade your customers, to paint pictures, all that good stuff, influence them into making a decision, because they came in for a reason. They have a problem. You have the solution to it, okay? And then last one is follow through. Follow through on your word. Anything you do, follow through on your word with yourself, follow through on your word with your customers, and then you will follow through with being a great salesperson, making more money, living in abundance, and having a beautiful life that you want to have. Hopefully you guys got some value out of this video. Do me a favor, hit like, comment, subscribe, follow for more.